Welcome back to Rakina's Rising Icon Success Stories. In this podcast, we dive into the minds of tomorrow's future leaders, discover their journeys to success, the challenges they overcome, and their visions for the future. Each episode features candid conversations with rising stars in various fields, offering insight and inspiration for your own path. Don't forget to follow all my social medias at Rakina's Rising Icons Podcast. Let's get started. Hey everyone, today's podcast is going to be a bit different. Instead of inviting a high school student, I've got a special guest with me today. He's a famous comedian, actor, and writer, known for his work on MTV's Wildin' Out. He's also part of the comedy group The 85 South Show with DC Young Fly and Carlos Miller. It's my cousin, Anthony, also known as Chico B.
Hey baby, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am wonderful, and I am so proud of just hearing how well you just spoke, how well you just read that off. I'm around some of the biggest professionals in the game, and they don't sound anywhere near as good as you already do sitting in your living room. So you off to a great start, baby.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me your time to do this.
Man, whatever. I ain't got no choice. Your daddy raised me, man. Help raise me. Whatever you need, I got you. Whatever you need, I always got you.
Okay, so in this podcast, I did a little research on your career, and I basically made a timeline based on your milestones.
Okay.
Achieved during your career, and I have questions in between those milestones.
I'm ready for you, baby.
So first, let's start off with early childhood. So you grew up in DC.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
It was fun, it was unique. The environment was really different than it is now because of the gentrification. So it was really Chocolate City back then. People always find it very interesting when I say I've never went to school with a white person in my life. Like my entire life, I've always went to school with black people. All my elementary school was all black, middle school was all black, high school was all black. So it gave me an experience that is very unique, but it allowed me to have culture, and that's so important in the entertainment industry because as black people, that's our biggest export is our culture. So coming from a place like DC, having such a rich culture has helped me with just being able to identify and being able to, connect with people all over the world, really, just because I grew up in the city of DC.
Where did you attend college at?
Winston-Salem State University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
And what did you major in there?
Communications, radio, television, and it's not because I thought I was going to do this. It was just because it didn't have any math in it, and I picked I picked something that didn't have no math. So that's what I was interested in doing. Something that I didn't have to do no equations. It was like, oh, you can talk and get a degree. I know how to talk. Let me do that. That's why I picked communications.
So let's start off with your early comedy career. It says you started performing stand-up comedy in local clubs and venues, gradually building your reputation. So what inspired you to start performing stand-up comedy?
Oh man, really, best way to explain it would probably be necessity and just not knowing what it is that I wanted to do, but knowing what I was supposed to do wasn't what I wanted to do. So when I graduated, I went to get a job at the news station where I did my internships at. It's called WXI 12. It's an NBC affiliate. So I did all of the the high school football games. I would record them, I would edit them, I would do all of this stuff. So I thought that I was guaranteed a job that would be well paying, and I thought I was gonna be a news anchor at one point. So that was what I was, on my trajectory in my mind to be. And when I went to get a job, they told me I was gonna be making $6.25 an hour part-time. And I was like, no, I'm not. Because I had been working my whole life. I started working when I was 9 years old at the barbershop, brushing people off for dollars. The barbershop that your dad took me to get my first haircut at. I started working there. And so being as though I always got my own money, I said, man, I might as well, do something for myself. If I'm gonna be poor and struggling, I'd much rather be poor and struggling, building my own name and legacy than hoping somebody else recognizes my worth and helping them build theirs. So my guy Jerome, which is a friend of mine, was like, man, you funny. I was hosting all of this stuff at my college, all of the step shows, all of the pageants and all that stuff. So he was like, man, you should try comedy. I'm like, man, I ain't never did no comedy. He was like, man, you don't got the stage fright, so half of it already done. All you got to do is just get the structure down. So the Greensboro Comedy Zone, which is about 30 minutes away from where I went to school, they had an open mic night every first and second Thursday of the month. So I went that first Thursday in August and watched everybody do horrible. And I was like, well, I can at least do this bad. So that next week I was going through my mind, getting my 4 minutes of time to do jokes together. I went that next week, got on stage, did 4 minutes, and when I got off stage, it was like, it hit me. It said, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and I just never stopped since then.
Next is joining Wildin' Out. In 2013, you joined the cast of MTV's improv comedy show Wildin' Out. My question for you is, how did you get the opportunity to join Wildin' Out?
Audition. I did a comedy show with Nick Cannon probably 2 years prior to them bringing Wildin' Out back up in New York, called The Fresh Faces of Comedy. It was something he was doing just kind of to discover new talent for something else he had going on. And a friend of mine who went to school with me named Dolly Bishop, she was working with Nick at the time. She was his assistant. So she recommended that myself and a guy I did comedy with named B-Dot came up and did the show. So my week to come up and do the show, I go into the comedy club, the owner of the club say, hey man, I don't know who you are, I've never heard of you. So you can't say the N-word, you can't curse, you can't talk about this, that, and the third. And at that time, that's all I was talking about. So I was like, oh my God. So I went outside and I don't really write jokes down. Like my creative process is a little different. I walk around and just talk to myself and get it together. So that's what I was outside doing. Nick pulls up and sees me outside talking to myself. Now mind you, we're in New York City. This is the home of you see anything up there. So he just thought I was just some crazy dude outside talking to myself. But when I got on stage, my set was about everything that had happened up until that point, all the way down to me walking around talking to myself outside. So when I came off stage, Nick said, man, were you just making all that up out there? I said, yeah. He told me I'm around some of the best in the game. Same thing I just told you, I'm around some of the best, some of the most prolific comedians that have ever done it. They can't do what you just did. Keep working. Fast forward 2 years later, I find out through Dolly that they're having a Wildin' Out, bringing Wildin' Out back, and he's looking through for new talent from a tweet. Now, mind you, I just found out I was getting laid off from my job at the time. So I was like, man, whatever I got to do to get an audition, let me know. So I don't think Nick remembered me prior to that first audition, because this first audition wasn't even a real audition. Like, it was just something he was doing because he had a radio show. So he had us come down to Charlotte, North Carolina. And when we came down to Charlotte, I could tell it wasn't a real audition, because when I looked at the people who were in line, I was like, are they doing an audition or giving away turkeys out here? Like, what is this? Is this a charity drive? Or it just didn't look real. So when I went in and did the audition, I killed it because I just talked about what was going on. Like the people that were standing in line, and the dude, it was one dude that was in there that was not laughing at nobody. His name was Dorian. So I ended up talking about him, and Nick was like, you right, this isn't a real audition. I was just doing this thinking we wasn't gonna find nobody for the radio show, but you gotta come to New York and do the real audition. So I had to sell some clothes at Plato's Closet. I took some clothes I had, because I didn't really have no money at the time. So I took some clothes that I had and sold them at Plato's Closet to buy the plane ticket to go up there to do the audition. When I went up there to do it, I joked about the fact that I had to sell my clothes to get up there. And, everybody laughed, they were impressed. And then at the end of the audition, a white guy who was one of the producers said, hey man, that joke you just made about selling your clothes to get back up here, I hope you got some more clothes to sell, because you got to come back next week and do another audition. I'm like, oh my God. So I go to my rental office lady. At this time, I had sold all my clothes, at least the ones that people would want to buy. And I went to my rental office lady and told her that, I got an opportunity. If you can just let me pay my rent late, I promise you I'll get it to you, but I got a great opportunity. And she was like, oh, baby, just whatever you got going on, go do your thing. I went back up, did the group audition. So I was the only one that had to audition 3 times out of the whole cast. So we did the group audition. This is the audition with Carlos and Emmanuel and Conceited and all of those people, Timothy De La Ghetto, all of these people were at this group audition. So we didn't know whether or not we were gonna make the show or not, but we did this group audition. It went great. Fast forward to January. This was in 2012, January 2013. I got laid off officially January, I think 11th, which was a Friday. That following Monday, I flew out to shoot Wildin' Out, and I ain't worked a day since.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, with the formation of the 85 South Show, along with fellow comedians DC Young Fly and Carlos Miller, you co-founded the 85 South Show, a comedy podcast and live show that has gained a large following. How has the show evolved since it started?
Well, that was really Carlos's brainchild, and I say that because he's our elder in comedy. Like, he's been doing it longer than myself and Fly, so he has a different vantage point of what it takes to make it, and the understanding of what it takes to be, in the game, from him coming out of Atlanta when it was still treacherous to kind of even get stage time. So he had the vision that we should do something for ourselves. Now, mind you, we had no idea what that was, but what you see us do on the 85 South Show is what we do when the cameras are off. So he was just like, well, maybe we should just put a camera in front of us and talk the same stuff that we talk when the cameras are not on. And that's pretty much how it started. Now, the evolution kind of just came naturally because we trust each other. We're all fans of each other. So once we decided to get on stage together and do it the way that we did it, it kind of, lightning in a bottle. It just took off. We had no idea it was going to create the type of, response that it created, but once we did it, we knew we had something, so we just kept at it, and that's really the evolution, just trusting each other.
Next is comedy specials and tours. Over the years, you have participated in various comedy tours and specials, further solidifying your place in the comedic industry. How do you prepare for your comedy tours?
It depends on what type of tour it is, because everyone is different. Like the 85 South is very different because it's three of us. We're all on stage together. It's a big crew of people that all work for us, and it's just a lot of management that has to go on, and you got to be involved in a lot more when it's 85 South versus the one that I just did with the We Them Ones, which is very simplistic. I just show up, go to my dressing room, do my 20 minutes, 25 minutes on stage, and then I'm done. And then, it's just depends on what my expectation is or what my role is going to be on the tour that determines how I prepare for it. But as far as getting on stage, my creative process is always the same. I just, stay to myself, figure it out, and go and deliver. That's it. That's consistent. But as far as the other stuff, that's what really counts, like managing everything else. The on stage part is really simple. That's only at the most it's an hour for any comedian. Even the top tier ones are only doing an hour, maybe an hour and 5. But the rest of that time is where you have to really learn to manage your success and manage the people you have around you and manage all of the different things that go on behind the scenes. And I think that's the real work. So depending on what the tour is, it determines what type of work I have to do. But on stage, it's the same, baby.
Speaking of managing and balancing your acting and writing career, in addition to your works in the comedic field, you also take on roles in acting and writing. How do you balance your time between stand-up comedy and acting and writing?
It just depends on what the opportunity is, Being able to identify opportunities that aren't attached to money is something that I've had to learn, because at a certain point in your career, all you want is some money. Like, you're just chasing the money. But once you start to get to a point where you don't have to chase the money anymore, then it becomes difficult to be able to find the opportunities that might not be about money, but it's a great opportunity to kind of elevate you into another level in another field. And that's kind of where the acting and writing came from, because a lot of that stuff I've done pro bono for no money, but it has created opportunity for people to see that I have this skill set. Whereas though if I was looking for a payday, then I would have missed that opportunity because there was no money attached to it. So the balancing really just comes from getting to a place where you can start to do stuff for free again, because you start off doing everything for free. And then you get to a point, if you become successful, that you start to make a little bit of money, and then you get ahead of your bills and all that stuff. And then at that point, you got to kind of realize that you got to start doing stuff for free again to elevate yourself, because you make a commitment. You might do something that takes nothing but your time. It took me 3 weeks to write this play, or 3 weeks to write, or to figure out this role that I'm not making no money for. But from somebody seeing that role, that 3 weeks that you took can make you millions of dollars if you do it the right way. So that's really the balance, is figuring out how to pick what stuff to do free after you become successful.
Okay, so my last question for you is, could you give some advice to a younger generation who want to be like a comedian like you and is just starting out in the industry, or just like in general?
Yes, I can, baby, and you are doing it right now. Like I could, your dad, was a big influence on me. A huge influence. I got my Uncle Eric here. Like my uncles, I didn't have my dad, so my uncles were my dads. My Uncle Reggie, my Uncle Eric, and my Uncle Ricky. So a lot of the stuff that I know about music, the things that people love me for, the things that people think is so amazing about me, came from, me being in the basement with your dad and him DJing and playing records and watching videos and all of this stuff that I was able to consume and I thought was cool because he was cool to me. So seeing you utilize, having a mic and a phone and your sister on the camera, like I didn't have those opportunities because, just the way we grew up, we didn't have it like that. But utilize your tools, your assets. I still utilize my assets because everything that I learned from your dad and all of the music and the James Brown and all that stuff is stuff that I implement into who I am as an entertainer. So utilize your skill set, like my Uncle Eric is the reason why I don't care what nobody think about me. Like the way he used to get on me and joan on me and talk about me when I was little and make sure I said something back to him in a joke manner before he let me walk away. All of that stuff is me utilizing my skill set and my tools that I was given at the time. But if I had the opportunity to take my phone out or record any of this stuff, then I wouldn't need anybody's help. And that's your generation. Your generation has everything that you need available to you. So utilize your tools and don't wait for anybody to give you any opportunity, because your generation is the generation of creating your own opportunities. Like now, on the other side of the entertainment industry, nobody wants to build a project. Like back in the day, they would take you and develop you as an artist or develop you as a writer or develop you as a comedian. Now they want you to come already developed because they're looking at all of the assets and tools that you guys have to use but there's no reason why we should have to do artist development. You got your phone now, so if you do it yourself, then that means you get to keep most of the money. You don't have to split it with as many people as you do if you develop, and you already are building your own, just what's it called, the Rolodex of content, because that's what the world is now. It's all about content. What you're doing now, you're contributing to your own legacy by creating this content that belongs to you. And once you do that, then you realize you go in them offices of the people who make those decisions with a bank of material, and they even if they don't want you, they'll buy your material to give it to somebody else. So either way, you guys just got to utilize your assets and don't listen to what people tell you outside of somebody who's telling you to keep doing whatever it is you want to do.
Thank you for that amazing advice, and thank you for being on my podcast. I really appreciate your time.
But I got you. You are very welcome. Anytime, baby. Anytime.
Okay, I'll see you guys in the next episode.